Hospital room. The soft beep of heart monitors and the occasional shuffle of nurses fill the sterile, white room. Rhea lies in a hospital bed, looking unnervingly calm as she prepares for the transplant. The sterile smell of antiseptic fills the air as the doctors finalize their preparations. Despite the sense of urgency and importance of the surgery, Rhea's demeanor remains unchanged, almost too composed for someone undergoing such a significant operation. Jungkook and YN sit side by side in the waiting room just outside the operating theater, their expressions heavy with unspoken emotion. YN holds onto Jungkook's hand, her fingers intertwined with his, yet the silence between them feels as suffocating as the situation itself. Jungsu, their 5-year-old son, lies in his own hospital bed, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the situation. He sleeps peacefully, unaware of the chaos unfolding around him. The doctor had come in earlier, giving them the news that the transplant would take place today. He assured them that Rhea's kidney match was perfect for Jungsu, and with the surgery, their son's life would be saved. But despite the success of the procedure, the emotional toll on YN and Jungkook is immense. The idea that Jungkook would marry Rhea, someone who had blackmailed him and used his son's life to manipulate him, weighs heavily on both of them. YN looks at Jungkook, her voice barely a whisper as the weight of everything they've been through together seems to fall on her shoulders all at once. YN, softly, almost to herself, I can't believe this is really happening. You're going to marry her, Jungkook. After all this, after everything we've been through. Jungkook's face hardens as he stares at the door that leads to the operating room. He grips her hand tighter, trying to stay strong, but the uncertainty and anger churn in his chest. He looks at YN with raw pain in his eyes, as if silently begging for her to understand that he had no choice. Jungkook. Looking away, I never wanted this, never wanted to put you through this. But I'm doing this for Jungsu, for our son. I can't stand the thought of losing him, YN. YN nods, tears threatening to well up in her eyes. She understands, but it doesn't make the situation any easier to bear. The sense of betrayal she feels, betrayal not just from Rhea, but from the circumstances they've found themselves in, seems almost unbearable. Her voice breaks as she speaks again. YN, whispering, I know, Jungkook. I know, but I hate seeing you do this. I hate seeing you marry her for his sake, as if we're not enough anymore. I don't know how I'll feel once it's done. Jungkook finally turns his gaze back to her, his eyes softening with guilt and regret. He leans in closer, speaking with a quiet intensity that shows how deeply conflicted he is about the whole situation. His voice is almost a desperate plea for understanding. Jungkook. YN, I will never love her. I'll never let her have that from me. But this is the only way to save him. The doctors said without the transplant, his chances would be slim. Do you think I'd let him die? Do you think I could live with myself if I didn't do everything in my power to save him? YN meets his gaze, her chest tightening with the pain of seeing him in so much internal conflict. She wants to scream, to tell him that it's not fair, that this isn't how things should be. But she knows the stakes. She knows that if she were in his shoes, she would do the same thing. And yet, it doesn't make it easier. YN, quietly, fighting tears, I don't know what to say, Jungkook. I feel like I'm losing you to her, and it breaks me to know that. But I'll be strong for Jungsu. I have to be. We both do. The tension in the room is palpable as Jungkook stands up, pacing in the small waiting area. His mind is racing with thoughts of what's to come. The wedding is inevitable now, but he feels like he's being torn in two. On one hand, he's doing everything he can to save his son. On the other, he's giving up his life with YN, the woman he loves, to please someone who's manipulated him all along. Jungkook's face twists with frustration as he runs a hand through his hair. He can feel the weight of the decision bearing down on him, each step closer to the inevitable wedding making his stomach churn. But in this moment, the only thing that keeps him going is the image of Jungsu's smiling face, his little boy who needs him. Jungkook. Softly, as if to himself, I never thought it would come to this, but I'll do anything to make sure he's okay. I just wish it didn't have to be like this. YN watches him, her heart breaking for him, for them, for the family they were once supposed to be. She knows that this situation is beyond their control now. That their happiness, the life they had dreamed of, has been shattered in ways she never thought possible. As the hours drag on, they receive the update that the surgery is successful. The doctors come out to inform them that the transplant has gone smoothly and Jungsu is recovering. While the relief is overwhelming, there's still an underlying tension that neither of them can ignore. The marriage, the vows, the new life that Jungkook will have to build with Rhea, it all hangs over them, threatening to break apart everything they've fought so hard to keep together. Jungkook turns to YN, his face tired but resolute. His voice is firm, though there's a sadness in his eyes that refuses to be hidden. Jungkook, whispering, we'll get through this, YN. I swear, I'll do whatever it takes to keep us together. But right now, we need to focus on Jungsu. We need to make sure he's okay. YN nods, wiping away a tear that she didn't realize had fallen. She leans against him for comfort, trying to hold it together, trying to be strong for their son. She knows their life is changing, but she doesn't know how to prepare for the new reality that's unfolding before them. As they sit together in the quiet of the hospital room, waiting for news on their son's recovery, they know that nothing will ever be the same again. The transplant was a success. But the price they've paid, emotionally, mentally, and in every other way, is only just beginning to show. But the thing they didn't know that someone was listening to their talk, while smirking. 2 months later, the living room was peaceful. Jungkook and YN sat comfortably together, enjoying the quiet after all the chaos. Jungsu was playing in the corner, unaware of the past battles fought to secure his future. It seemed like the calm after the storm, a moment of tranquility that both had longed for. But little did they know, their peace would be shattered once again. The sound of high heels clicking on the floor interrupted the stillness. Rhea strode in with her usual cocky smirk plastered on her face, her every step oozing with confidence. Her eyes scanned the room, a sharp gleam in them as if she still believed she could control the situation. She stopped, standing tall and proud, her stance exuding dominance. It was clear she thought she could still win, still dictate the terms. I've made my decision, she said, her voice dripping with false authority as she gazed at Jungkook and YN. The wedding will be in 2 weeks. Everything's set. A silence filled the room. Jungkook and YN exchanged a glance, a look that spoke volumes, disbelief, mockery, and a little bit of frustration. The fact that Rhea, after everything, still believed she could manipulate them was almost laughable. But there was no laughter in their eyes. YN tilted her head, a small, sarcastic smile pulling at her lips as she responded. Which wedding, Rhea? YN asked, her voice smooth, but with a clear edge. Jungkook followed up, his tone equally mocking. Oh, you're getting married. Congratulations, Rhea, how lovely. Rhea's expression faltered for just a moment, but she quickly recovered. Her eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms over her chest in an attempt to mask her unease. She wasn't ready to lose her control just yet. It doesn't matter if you mock me, Rhea snapped. I kept my end of the bargain. I gave you my kidney, didn't I? And now it's time for you to honor your promise. You owe me. YN's expression hardened. You're out of your mind if you think we'll ever let you marry him, she said, her voice calm but filled with an unmistakable venom. You've used our son's life to manipulate us, and now you think you have the right to demand something from us. Jungkook stood up from the couch, his posture stiff with a mix of anger and disgust. He moved toward Rhea, his eyes darkening with cold resolve. Do you really believe we'd ever let you in, Rhea? He asked, his voice low and firm. Do you think we'd forget what you did? You used Jungsu as leverage. You didn't do it out of the goodness of your heart. You used it to try to control us. Rhea faltered. She opened her mouth to speak, but YN cut her off. No, you don't get to do this, YN said, stepping closer to her. You never had a chance. Not with me, not with Jungkook. You thought you could win by lying and manipulating, but you're not getting away with it anymore. Rhea's face twisted with shock and panic as she stepped back, trying to gather her thoughts. But YN wasn't done. I followed you, Rhea, YN said, her voice firm, revealing everything. I saw you meeting with a man. Someone who was desperate for money. You paid him to sell his kidney, and you tried to pass it off as your own. Don't try to deny it. I know everything. A few days after they got a call from Rhea. YN's suspicion about Rhea continues to grow, and she can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. She knew what Rhea really is, avoiding certain topics, and being overly secretive. Rhea only cares about herself than anything else. She just can't give in like this. One evening, as YN was in the car in front of Fred's apartment, she saw Rhea getting in car going somewhere else. She followed her. And she noticed Rhea going towards a cafe. Rhea is standing outside a small, dimly lit cafe, talking to a man YN doesn't recognize. She watches from behind a pillar, keeping her distance, as Rhea and the man exchange hurried words. The man looks disheveled, desperate, and clearly in need of money. YN's heart races as she watches the interaction closely. Rhea hands the man an envelope filled with cash, and the man nods, looking relieved but still hesitant. He mutters something that YN can't hear, and Rhea nods in response, urging him to leave quickly. After the exchange, Rhea walks off, seemingly unaware of YN's presence. But YN's suspicion is confirmed. This wasn't just a random encounter, it was something much more sinister. Later, YN tracks down the man from the cafe, confronting him with a direct, no-nonsense attitude. YN, demanding, "Tell me everything. What did Rhea pay you for?" The man hesitates at first, but the fear in his eyes quickly turns into a reluctant confession. "Man, she paid me for my kidney. I didn't want to, but I was in desperate need of money. She promised me a large sum, and I took it. I didn't know she was going to use it for a kid." YN's heart drops as the full weight of the deception sinks in. She knew something was off and she was right. YN storms off, her mind racing with anger and betrayal. With newfound determination, YN hurries back home, her thoughts consumed by the truth she's just uncovered. She told Jungkook everything. She can't let Rhea get away with this. Ray's face drained of color. Her hands trembled as she looked at both of them, fear starting to creep into her expression. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The weight of the truth pressed down on her. She had been caught. I didn't," Rhea stammered, but her voice was weak, and she couldn't hold herself up anymore. The lies were unraveling before her eyes, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. YN took a deep breath, her eyes flashing with a mixture of fury and disgust. "You thought you could just buy a kidney and pretend it was yours. You thought you could control our lives. Well, you're wrong, you don't get to control us anymore." Jungkook stepped forward, standing beside YN. He turned to Rhea, his expression unwavering. "I knew from the beginning. I knew you weren't telling the truth, Rhea. I knew everything." Jungkook continued, "And you know what? We could have exposed you before, but the real #CHUR. We knew that the doctors were your friends who switched you in the end with that guy for the transplant. We knew that one mistake of ours can affect our son's life." Then YN said, "We didn't have much time, Rhea, otherwise we would have chosen different doctors for our son. But guess what, the doctors and nurses are already arrested for doing this, and not it's your turn." As suddenly door opened and police came. Ray's eyes widened in disbelief as she took a step back, her whole body shaking now. No, that's not true," she gasped. "You can't prove it. You don't have any evidence." But YN was prepared for this moment. She stepped closer, her voice sharp and final. "I spoke to the man you bought the kidney from. You don't get to lie your way out of this. I have proof, and now the whole world will know what you did." Rhea dropped her head into her hands, her sobs breaking through as she fell to her knees. "Please, Jungkook, I love you," she pleaded, her voice desperate. "I've always loved you. Don't do this. I've done everything for you, for your son, please, just give me a chance." But Jungkook's heart had hardened. He stepped back, his face devoid of pity or compassion. "You never loved me. You loved the idea of having power over me, of controlling me. But that's not love, Rhea. That's manipulation." Ray's sobs grew louder as she tried to hold on to him, but he gently pulled away. "Please," she whispered. "Please, Jungkook, don't leave me. I'll do anything, just don't turn your back on me." YN, watching the scene unfold, felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. She stepped forward, her hand resting firmly on Jungkook's shoulder. "It's over, Rhea," YN said, her voice calm but resolute. "You don't get to destroy our family anymore. You've lost." Rhea, now completely broken, didn't fight as Jungkook and YN helped her to the door. Her sobs were muffled as they ushered her out of their lives, the final chapter in her manipulation coming to a close. The door closed behind her, and the silence that followed felt like a victory. Jungkook and YN stood together, their hearts still racing from the confrontation, but their bond stronger than ever. They turned toward Jungsu, who was still playing in the corner, his innocent laughter a reminder of everything they had fought for. Jungkook wrapped his arm around YN, pulling her close. "We're free," he whispered, his voice filled with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in so long. YN nodded, resting her head on his shoulder as they gazed at their son. They were free from the lies, from the manipulation. Their family was whole again, stronger than ever before. And nothing, no one, would ever tear them apart again.